In the previous video in this series, we talked about the introduction of the character of Aragorn and of greatness. Now Aragorn has chosen to protect and guide the hobbits on their quest, and we will be focusing on the theme of fear. Hey everyone, my name is Austin and this channel is all about digging deeper and going further to better understand faith and film and everything that is in between. If that's exciting to you, you are in the right place and you can subscribe for a new video every Friday. So it is now the next day after leaving the Prancing Pony, and after a long day of travel, the group arrives at the Great Watchtower of Amansul, also known as Weathertop. The group arrives, and Aragorn gives them some swords to protect themselves if needed, and goes out on a patrol. After some time, Frodo is awoken by the hobbits who have built a small fire to cook up some food. This ruckus attracts the wraiths who have been in pursuit of them since the Prancing Pony, and the wraiths ascend the hill and attack the hobbits. This is an awesome scene. The music, the atmosphere, the action, all of it. When I first saw this when I was 12 years old, this scene terrified me. Now though, I've grown to love it and I view it as a very impactful scene. So the wraiths center in on Frodo, sensing the power of the ring that he's carrying, and in a moment of fear, he gives in to temptation. He remembers that this ring turned him invisible just a few days prior at the Prancing Pony, and he decides to try this again. As humans, we too are susceptible to the same temptation. We all, like Frodo, struggle with sin every day. Now, it's not wrong to feel fear. It's very natural, actually, but it comes down to which decision you make when faced with that fear, and how you choose to react. Will you give in to it, or will you face it? In this situation, Frodo's decision makes sense, and many of us, if put in that same scenario, would have chosen the same thing. Just think, sin is something that we know we are supposed to avoid. But in a moment of fear, we may think, hey, this worked for me back here and I got out of that situation. Let me try it again. Now, unfortunately for Frodo in this case, the wraiths also have a presence in the world of the ring that he goes into when he puts it on his finger. And similarly in our own lives, just like Frodo, we may think ourselves at times safe in our own sin, and that it conceals us. But at this point it is too late. And like Frodo, we are stuck. Frodo tries to fight it, but is almost pulled in by the power of the ring to the wraiths. He pulls away, but not before one of them stabs him with a knife. He pulls the ring off his finger as Aragorn comes in for the rescue, who fights off the wraiths in epic slow-mo action, while Sam tends to Frodo. Once the wraiths are gone, Aragorn returns to Frodo. He quickly recognizes that Frodo has been stabbed by a Morgul blade, and that it is beyond his ability, and that they need to seek elvish medicine. Like Frodo, once we have chosen to sin, there is only so much that man-made remedies can do. Both he and we need spiritual healing. They come across the elf Arwen, who knows Aragorn and convinces him to allow her to take Frodo to Rivendell where she can help him. She takes him and barely manages to get away from the wraiths, but after escaping though, it appears that she is too late. Frodo is falling to the power of the wraiths. She says a prayer over him as he continues fading to Valar. And if you don't know, Valar is the god and creator of Middle-earth, very similar to God in our own world. And she asks him to spare Frodo and have grace over him. Now think about this. She is basically a stranger to Frodo. She's been riding with him for a couple days now, but it's not like they've had any time to sit and chit-chat. They are both strangers to one another. But she still recognizes his significance and stops to pray for him. There are many verses in the Bible that talk about praying for others, but the one that comes to mind here is James 5:16, which says, "Pray for each other so that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective." Do we, like Arwen, pray for people, even those that we don't know well that are in our lives? So, Frodo goes into this trance-like state and awakens sometime later in the house of Elrond in Rivendell, greeted by Gandalf by his side. When Frodo asks Gandalf why he didn't meet them back at the Prancing Pony, we are shown what happened to Gandalf after he and Saruman's fight. We see Gandalf on the top of the Tower of Isengard, and a moth flies up and he catches it, holding it in his hands. Now, fun fact, I'm not 100% sure if this is true. I read it on the internet. It'd be really cool if it is. Even if it's not, it's a fun story. This moth was real. It wasn't any kind of CGI or anything like that. And if this story is true, this moth lived the greatest life. The story that I heard said that this moth was born on the set the day that they were recording and was used in that scene and did all of its time there. And then later that day, died of natural causes. Now, that was a life well lived. It spent nearly its entire life being in The Lord of the Rings. Again, I don't know how true it is. I hope it is, even if it's not. Fun story. So, Gandalf whispers a spell of some kind to this moth, and it flies off as Saruman, the White Wizard, approaches. Saruman attacks him again, giving him one last chance to choose to join him or to die. Like Frodo on top of Weathertop, Gandalf is faced with a moment of fear, where he must decide what he's going to do. Is he going to give in, or will he face it? And Gandalf, unlike Frodo, chooses to face his fear. Gandalf responds by saying, "There is only one Lord of the Ring, only one who can bend it to his will, and he does not share power." I love this line. It works in itself, and it speaks in the greater context of this series that we're doing here. Comparing this Lord of the Ring that Gandalf is referring to, which is Sauron, to that of the devil in our world, and his ability to twist sin to his will. He can manipulate how we view it to cause us to think that we might have a power over it in our own strength. But, as that line says, he does not share power. And so whoop, Gandalf is whisked away by an eagle and off to safety. And we then return from the flashback to him and Frodo in Rivendell. Frodo is then reunited with his friends as they greet each other excitedly. So that was a lot. We went through like 3 scenes, all focusing on fear and how we face it. I want to know from you, what do you pull from these scenes in particular? Be sure to share those thoughts in the comments down below. I look forward to hearing what you have to say. Next, we will be taking a look at Aragorn as he reflects on his past and events that happened there, and Gandalf and Elrond's conversation about what to do with the ring going forward now that it is in Rivendell. Thanks for sticking around to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, like the video, make sure you're subscribed, and share it with someone who you know would enjoy it just as much as you did. Thank you again, and I will see you in the next video.